Hello everyone. So I'm going to be starting a new video series, and this video series is going to be called Debate, or perhaps debating or debates or something along those lines. Probably debate. And what this video series is going to be about is I'm going to bring up a topic by anything, and I'm going to give my side. I'm going to give my point of view about this topic, and it's up to you if you want to debate that in the comment section. You could either take my side, agree with what I say, and perhaps debate other people in the comment section, or oppose my side and tell me why you feel you think my opinion is wrong or my feelings on this topic are wrong. Or you could just watch this video and enjoy it, as most people do, and not comment at all. Anyhow, so this is my new video series. That's what I'm going to be doing. The first topic I'm going to do, as you see from the title of the video, is Obama a good president? And I know that's kind of a national topic. For those of you who don't live in the United States, you kind of don't care, perhaps, whether Obama is a good president or not. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. So I understand that. I know it's more of a national topic, and so those of you from out of the United States, you may not be as interested in this topic. But don't worry, I'm going to come up with other topics that are perhaps more internationally based. Matter of fact, my next topic that I'm going to do is, how can I state this? Should there be a global language? That's going to be my next topic of debate, so stay tuned for that. Anyhow, so the topic of today, is Obama a good president? Let's get into that. Okay, the first thing that comes to mind when I think of that question is, what is a good president? What would be considered a good president? And I think this is part of the problem with whether you think Obama is a good president or is not a good president. The problem is that you have some kind of set standard in your mind, some kind of mold of how a president should be. It could even go down to not just their politics, it could even go down to their looks. Perhaps because Obama's not a full white person. The stereotypical image of a good president in your mind, part of it anyways, is that they have to be an upstanding white person. Maybe. I don't know. But the point is that my first thing would be to find out what exactly is a good president. And so to me, shoot, wow, that's a tough question. What would be considered a good president? One who doesn't lie. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. But right away I'm thinking, but they all lie. All humans lie. Okay, so how about this? Someone who lies less, or who only lies when it's needed. Like, okay, a president of a country or any country, they can't just divulge anything. There has to be secrets, because if the president divulges everything, other countries are going to find out about it. It's going to weaken national security, so on and so forth. So they have to keep certain things secret. Okay, so the president has to have some kind of secret. So he's going to have to lie or kind of dance around the truth sometimes. Okay, but for the most part, we want a president to kind of give us the basic gist of what's going on. Don't lie to us too much. Don't send us into wars for false reasons. Things of that nature. Okay, so honesty, I guess, will be part of having a good president. A certain level of honesty. Okay. I don't know. It's pretty vague. That question of what is a good president. Maybe that should be the debate. What is a good president? Before we even figure out if Obama is a good president, what would be considered a good president? That's a freaking good question. That's okay. Put the topic of debate to the side. I want you guys to answer that question first. What the heck would be considered a good president? What would a person have to do to be considered a good president? Because they can't satisfy. Okay, just for the United States, for example, there's some 314 million people in this country. There's absolutely no way you could satisfy everybody. Impossible. Because 314 million people, 314 million different ideas of how the country should be run or how certain situations should be addressed. You could take any topic. Should we go to war with X country? You get this group of people, they're going to feel this way. You get this other group of people, they're going to feel another way. Obviously, the president can't satisfy both groups, and there's 314 million people worth of groups in there. And so, what kind of mold could you have? What kind of standard could you have of saying this would be a good president? Because, again, they can't satisfy everybody. They can't be absolutely open and honest because, again, they have to have some kind of... there has to be some kind of security, and we have to have some kind of secrets so the other nations don't know what we're doing, or they would just be able to infiltrate our whole system of things over here. So, wow, that is a tough question. What would be considered a good president? Satisfying the needs of the majority? Okay, that would encounter its own problems, because what about minority groups such as, say, homosexual people? You know, say they're vying for marriage and stuff like that, but they're a minority. Homosexuals comprise, what, like 5% of the population or something like that? And so if a president only worried about the majority of people, then all these minority groups like homosexuals and whoever else, they would be left behind. They wouldn't get anything that they wanted. And so, I mean, it's like, what can you expect out of a president? What can you expect out of somebody who's trying to please hundreds of millions of people? In the case of the United States, in smaller countries, it's not so much. In other countries like China, trying to satisfy 1.3 or 1.6 billion people. So what can you expect of a person that's trying to satisfy, in the United States, 314 million people? How can that person even begin to satisfy even a small group, a small portion of that population? That's a tough task. Now that I'm really thinking about it critically, that's a tough task for any person. But anyhow, so kind of back to the question. We're getting way off the question of whether Obama was a good president. We're still trying to figure out, or I'm still trying to figure out, what would be considered a good president. One who's upstanding morally. And even that has its own problems because, again, there's 314 million people in this country, so 314 million different ideas of what's morally right and wrong. So, for example, I mean, you could think of anything. For example, Obama, he's used marijuana before, I believe. I think he admitted to that. Is that morally wrong that he did that at any point in his life? Should a president have had no encounters of any kind of illegal or activity in his life? Nothing that's even remotely considered wrong? Should the president be like this ultimate perfect person that's done no wrong? Is there even such a person? In this, out of 314 million people, is there anyone out there? And say you found this person, this totally upstanding person, who hasn't done like anything, never did drugs, never spray painted on a wall, never broke a neighbor's window, just this perfect person throughout their whole life, which probably doesn't even exist. Okay, would they even make a good president though? Maybe you need a person that's kind of done those things to be a little bit more well-rounded, that's kind of experienced things in life. If you have this perfect individual who's never been through anything in their life, then how are they going to understand the plight of the normal man? I don't know. I just don't see how this perfect person would be able to be a president, be able to make judgments that a president needs to make. So, wow, that's a tough question. What should the president cut his hair a certain way? I mean, really, what kind of mold are we talking about here that would make a good president? Before we can even get into, is Obama a good president, we have to answer the question, well, what is a good president? And even you people out there answering, you're all going to have different answers of what you think is a good president. Oh, a president should be married. Should a president even be religious? Is that part of being a good president? That he has to have a connection with God or some higher power? I bet some of you out there would believe that. You strong religious people, you're going to be like, yeah, to be a good president, you have to have strong faith in God. You don't necessarily have to be my religion, we have to have some strong faith in a God or a higher power. Some people are going to say that. And other people are going to be like, no, I want a president who's more open-minded and more of a free thinker. Maybe any of you atheists out there, I want a president who's not religious whatsoever, who's not going to be feel like he's obligated to some kind of religion or something. That would to you would be a good president. And so wow, it's a really tough question. What would be considered a good president? And I think that's the main problem with any president that's ever been in office, is that the answer to that question is so vague of what exactly would be a good president. And again, trying to satisfy the hundreds of millions of people in this country, that there's no way, it's like basically impossible to have a guy or a girl, whoever, that's going to be considered as a good president. There's going to be some people who think that the president, whoever it is the greatest person in the world, they do nothing wrong. And there's going to be other people who think that the president does everything wrong. Why does he do that? Why does he go to that war? Why does he pass that law? So on and so forth. I think that's the problem. I think that it's just too vague. That there is no mold of what is a good president, or that everyone in their own mind has their own mold of what is a good president. What I think is a good president, what you think is a good president, what this guy over here thinks is a good president. And so if they don't meet that standard perfectly, then all of a sudden, no, we say they're a bad president. That's a tough question. So yeah, so it almost seems like whoever you throw in office, whoever you put up in there and you label him as president of the United States, someone or a lot of people are going to consider him a bad president. That's a horrible president. He or she shouldn't be president. And then again, you're going to have other people. Well, that's a great president. Glad that person is president. Wow. So, I didn't really answer the question of is Obama a good president, because I don't think that can be answered. From a philosophical standpoint, I do not think that can be answered. Or any kind of logical standpoint, I don't think that can be answered. Is Obama a good president? It just comes down to each individual person. You have to make that own choice for yourself, because I could give all kinds of reasons why I think Obama is a good president or a bad president. And you could easily oppose him because you have different ideals. You have different morals. You may have different ideals of how this country should be run, or what should go on in this country, or what should go on in this world, and so on and so forth. But for example, just to throw some things out there, some reasons why I think Obama is a good or is not a good president. Let's say some bad things. Okay, the bad things, the things that I think makes Obama a bad president is that, to me, he doesn't seem to be too different from the last president, President Bush. He claimed a lot of things when he was running for president. For example, that he was going to close Guantanamo Bay, the prison in Guantanamo Bay. He even gave it a time. I think he said within a year of him being president, he was going to close that, right? And it never got done. Okay, and you could try to blame Congress, you could try to blame other people, but he has executive power, executive privilege, whatever it's called. If he really wanted to put his foot down and say, hey, I want that president closed today, he could do it. He's the president of the United States, but he chose not to. Okay? So that, he does all the drone strikes, like in these countries like Yemen and stuff like that, kind of perpetuating wars, not officially declared wars, but you're still in other countries killing people, innocent people getting killed by these drone strikes and other thing. Sort of, I don't want to say warmonger, but still war-ish. He's still in the war-ish ideal, you know. People could try to argue, well, he ended the Iraq War. But no, he didn't. The Iraq War ended on a timeline that was already in place since President Bush was in office. They already had a timeline set in place, and it ended on that timeline. You can look that up if you don't believe me. So he didn't like go out of his way to end the Iraq War. It ended when it was supposed to end anyways. The Afghanistan war is still going on. He did not end that. It doesn't seem to me that he's taken any great leaps to be that different from Bush as far as wars and stuff go. He's not this total anti-war president that perhaps I thought and other people thought he was going to be. Like totally end this war, close Guantanamo, take all of our troops out of Afghanistan, Iraq. But even me thinking about that, is that too high of an expectation? Maybe. But so that's my reason for him being a bad president. That's one of the reasons why I think he's a bad president. Not keeping his promises, like I said, as far as closing Guantanamo. He continued the Patriot Act as well. It came up for renewal. The Patriot Act came up for renewal. He put his signature on the paper to keep it going. So that's another thing. That's another thing like Bush. Bush initiated the Patriot Act, which infringes on some of our rights. And for those of you who don't know, some of our constitutional rights, like right to protect against search and seizure, like police officers and whoever else, government officials, they can't just search your house without a warrant, stuff like that. Patriot Act infringes on that, so the government agencies and police agencies, they have more power just to monitor you or to search your place without having any warrants, stuff like that. That's what the Patriot Act does, part of what it does. And Obama continued that. Again, Bush initiated it, and Obama signed it and kept it going. So another thing that I disagree with him, what would make him a bad president, if you will. Trying to think of other things. I just don't see radical changes. The only hugest thing I've seen is him having more compassion, if you will, for homosexuals. Him saying that he doesn't oppose it or that he thinks it's okay or whatever. So whatever along those lines. That, and then he did pass the health insurance thing, the Affordable Care Act insurance thing. So now that would be more towards the side of him being a good president. So maybe that's it. Maybe that's the answer to the question. Maybe there is no good president or bad president. Each president does good things, and each president also does bad things. It's just that perhaps some presidents do more bad things and some do more good things. But even saying that, that's dependent on what your own personal beliefs are. If you think that the United States should be at war all the time, and you're very pro gun and pro weapon and all that kind of stuff, if you have a president who goes to war all the time, who passes all kinds of gun laws and allows bigger clips on guns and just all kinds of stuff with weapons and wars and all that kind of stuff, you're going to think what that person is doing is good. But if you're opposed to wars and guns and violence and all that kind of stuff, you're going to think that president's a bad president. So it's like an unanswerable question. Is Obama a good president? Was Bush a good president? Was any of the presidents a good president? Yeah, it's a pretty unanswerable question. Again, that question, before you can even begin to answer that question, you have to answer the question, well, what is a good president? What does it mean to be a good president? Anyhow, that's the debate today. The video's been going on for a while. I don't even want to look at the time on the back of the video because I know it's been going on a long time. For those of you who stuck through this whole video, I'm pretty amazed. But thank you. I appreciate it. Since you stuck through this whole time, might as well give a thumbs up. You sat here this long. You must like it kind of a little bit, maybe. A little bit of a thumbs up. Again, the next video, though, is going to be... Don't let me forget. The next video is going to be... what did I say? Oh, should there be a global language? That's the next debate. I'm not going to be as vague in my answer on that one. I actually have a strong opinion on that one. This one was a tough question. I'm kind of curious how you guys are going to respond. But anyhow, so stay tuned for that. Again, thumbs up if you wanna. It's good for something. I don't know what the thumbs ups do, but it's gotta be good for something, right? That's why it's there. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Just put your thumb somewhere. thumbs up. They should have a thumb sideways for if you kind of don't really like the video, but you don't really hate the video. You're kind of like, maybe they should have like a side thumb. I think someone should tell YouTube about that. Anyhow,